So like when we had an elevation of like 391 feet as far as Ridge Hill, and then we have like the other areas that are like 300, will they be trying to keep, I'm thinking about like the distance between, like what is the distance that you would actually keep as far as trying to maintain that topographical? I know they had mentioned like,
Oh, the width of the buffer?
yeah, the
width
buffer.
Of the buffer of the berm? That I would not make comment on until I have the plans physically in front of me and we had a performance standard in front of me to say, this is what we have to do, this is what we have to do, and this is what we would have to do to achieve that. I don't have that information right now because, well, technically speaking, that's really not my role here. My role is to measure vibration from blasting. But I can speak to the fact that the design of a berm would have to be very meticulously considered, both based on what you're trying to accomplish and what is there. It's actually kind of there's a sound propagation model that is that's made for the industry to determine what level of sound or reduction you can achieve with a varying height and width of a berm or any barrier.
Mm-hmm. So like the two different things, like the trees would actually act as a filter that they're going to be putting in, and then actually trying to keep the topographical elevations that pre-exist. Both the combination would actually hold more of the sound and filter the air.
That is correct.
Okay. And the other thing I have a question is,
Diane, can you just finish up, please? You're out of time.
I'm out of time?
Yeah.
Oh, figures.
If you want to finish up one last question. You have one last question?
Oh, yeah. This is just an interest of mine is the actual, I had an earthquake that happened on a Sunday one year, and I actually felt it, and I called the epicenter, and they notified me that I was actually living on a fault that runs from outside of Boston, Walpole, and it runs all the way to the Ashley River. And I was just curious if we feel because we're more on rock, like more solid, would we experience more of this, like more of like a violent shaking, compared to like being on sand?
It's actually to your advantage to be built on rock from the standpoint of blast vibrations. Mm-hmm. From the standpoint of perceiving a natural earthquake, there are a multitude of conditions that are into play there, because a blast is only as deep as the holes drilled into the rock, whereas a natural earthquake is generally in this region centered about 1.5 miles to 3 miles below the ground surface. And the faults that we have in this region have not been active since prior to the reopening of the Atlantic Ocean, after there had been a single supercontinent formed by Europe, North Africa, and North America. After those pulled apart, a multitude of fractures formed everywhere. We have a string of extensional, what are called grabens and yoked basins, formed in our river channels all along the East Coast. The Narragansett Basin is one of them. I think it's the Thames River, we're in Mystic, Connecticut, in that area. Then there's the Connecticut River, then there's the Housatonic River, and then there is the Hudson River. All of these are extensional rift valleys. And there is a multitude of other fractures in the rock that were formed back before what was called the Iapetus Ocean, which was the proto-Atlantic that was formed before all the continents came together. When they came together, there were compressive forces that caused fracturing of the rock. So there is a multitude of fractures in our rock, none of them, as far as we know, and according to Dr. John Ebel of Weston Observatory, they cannot figure out what is causing our earthquakes, because it's not any apparent motion across a fault line, but instead it seems to be coming from a relatively shallow source in sometimes in the areas of faults, sometimes not. But they are occurring in regular areas. There are areas in New England that more frequently feel earthquakes than others.
Diane, we're out of time. Thank you. Continuing to next meeting. We have to make a motion to continue. Yeah, next meeting, yeah, okay.
I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing until our next scheduled meeting,
March 17th.
March 17th.
That's a motion, is there a second? All right, I'll second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad,
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow,
She recused.
oh, sorry, Mrs. O'Hara, Mr. Punchak,
Yes.
Ms. House.
Yes. We're going to take a 5-minute recess while everyone leaves. I know. Like, if I would have known she was asking a question, and nothing to do with that, it would have been like.
Who's that back with the 300 with that guy, you know, track and everything? Playing a lot of stuff. No. Anyway, he looks like him. In face. It's not Jack. He really looks like him. Drive Butler wants to show up. Your phones are down again. I've been calling you. It goes right.
Sometimes I wonder, like, you know, like, sometimes people like this real nervous.
The biggest issue is that like this was here was moving this away, so
So maybe, I think just people have such a sense of hearing. Actually, can't really hear, but if they're not, like, they got the microphone down here and they're talking.
People that can hear what's going, what he's saying, so. Oh, I already set it up. Yeah, so just letting you know, we've got text. But
Yeah, so good to see you guys out. Oh, you know, we live right next to one another, but.
All right. All right, ready? All right. Dis- All right, discussion by council vote or other action on payment of bills. Anybody have any questions on the packet in your?
I have a couple updates if you want.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
most of the negatives that we had talked about in last meetings were taken care of. The only one I haven't
Excuse
gotten.
me, one second.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead.
The only one I haven't gotten a chance to take care of because it takes a little bit more time because I have to contact ADP and they have to fix something that happened in the background is the police department's clothing allowance. And then I think there's only one new negative, which is the highways 50580, which I already talked to Director of Public Works. Him and I are going to meet sometime this week to fix that. Just do a budget transfer to fix it. There's been a lot of things that they've needed to fix, a lot more things. But yeah, like I said, most of the negatives that I know I'm aware of were fixed. Other than, like I said, and the legal professional services, that's just because we have a lot of stuff going on. So that's just, it is what it is. There's no other sources that we can do budget transfers to cover that.
So just a question on the police overtime. We're already at about like 95% of their budget. Is that going to kind of curtail or?
Yeah,
is it gonna
so
keep going?
I talked to the chief. Well, no, I talked to him about dispatch. Him and I will have a conversation. I'll email him tonight that him and I will have a conversation about that because that's obviously, it's directly related to salaries. So there's probably a couple, there's 2 officers that I know of that he sent me an email on of their end dates. I just need to calculate how much time between now and the end of the fiscal year in salaries that there will be left that we can pull from, and then I can just do the transfer.
Because there's not really a huge savings in their salaries because they're like already at 55% too. So it's not like.
One of them two of them, just left in January.
Okay.
So it'll be from mid to late January on.
Okay.
That's where I'll pull the transfer.
All right. Anyone else have any other questions? No? Okay. Anyone want to make a motion to approve the bills?
I will make a motion to approve the payment of bills for March 3rd, 2025 in the amount of $719,156.73.
That's a motion. Is there a second? Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mr. O'Hara. Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes. Discussion by council vote or other action on consent agenda. All items in this section are considered in one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a councilor requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda. A, town council minutes of January 6th, 21st, February 3rd, 10th, and 18th. Anyone have any questions or any comments on your minutes in the packet? Anyone make a motion to approve those?
I will make a motion to approve the town council minutes for January 6th, 21st, February 3rd, 10th, and 18th, 2025.
It's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara. Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes. Old business discussion by council vote or other action on status/progress report of specific items. Asset management, Mr. Gibbs.
At the bottom.
Yes, sorry. Pursuant to what I said at the last council meeting, we're going to be scheduling a presentation by the Asset Management Commission at a future council meeting. We were looking in April, but a lot of it, also depends on the progress as it relates to the current agenda. I think we had agreed it would be the second council meeting in April, which is when we'd ask them to come in. So I've communicated that to the chairman of that group, and we'll just keep our eyes open as it relates to the agenda. Anticipated agenda at that time to make sure we have enough room for it, because they're going to need about 20 minutes for that presentation.
Grants.
Yeah, at the next meeting, I'll provide the summary table, but you do have in your package the grant that we received from the state of Rhode Island under the site readiness program. That has been forwarded as part of the package. We have a $150,000 grant with the Rhode Island Commerce Corporation. We also have a contract with PAR Engineering. PAR Engineering basically works with Rhode Island Commerce Corporation under the Rhode Island Readiness Program. They, along with several other engineering firms, so they were assigned to North Smithfield for this project. Therefore, we have a contract also in the package with PAR to sign. This has all been worked out with Rhode Island Commerce Corporation, so they're in agreement with everything. There's a resolution in your package, which I need to get a vote on in order for us to give me authorization to sign both the PAR contract as well as the Rhode Island Commerce Corporation grant.
I just have a couple of questions regarding the 146 initiative and I guess the PAR contract. So it says that we have to request to go into Woonsocket.
Yes.
So are we guaranteed to be able to do that?
No, we're not. But and I spoke to Director D'Agostino, who's the Public Works Director. We will have a Woonsocket representative who is from the engineering department to be part of this. So they will look at the hydraulics and the infrastructure for a connection. That does not mean that the Woonsocket City Council has approved this connection. This is just to engineer it to show how it could work, which then drives the cost estimation, which we then can use on looking at the feasibility of tax increment financing.
So if we approve this and they don't let us gain access to do what we need to do, what happens?
Well, quite frankly, a lot of the infrastructure that we would have to have in that area is going to exist regardless of where we're coming from. Obviously, the path of least resistance is off of the water termination point, which is pretty much in the area of the Dowling Village. But the water infrastructure, and this is also sewer, I might add, is still the piping in that area, and the pumping and the water storage still is going to have to apply. If we don't get it from Woonsocket, then we're going to have to find another alternative. The purpose of the PAR contract is just look at it from a preliminary standpoint as to how it could happen. At that point, we'd have to have more definitive conversations with the city of Woonsocket. But Director D'Agostino has agreed to participate.
And then it just talks about that with the Woonsocket Water, we have to utilize their computerized hydraulic model.
Yes.
Says it may have to be calibrated. Is that at our expense?
That's going to be in this contract with PAR.
Okay.
Yes. You're going to have to look at the hydraulics as it relates to the ability for the system to service the uses along that 146 corridor, and that's going to require a hydraulic study. They already have had some water pressure problems, as I understand it, in some of the hydrants in that area. So that's all got to be reprogrammed for the analysis. That will drive a lot of the other conclusions that PAR is going to come up with as to how we could store and distribute water in that area. Again, this is a 100% grant from the state. There is no matching funds here. So that's positive.
Anyone have any other questions?
Is Lincoln an alternative?
It may be. It may even be, and I'll say something radical, it may even be possibility of a separate on-site water system owned by the town. You know, it's all possible. If we did that, we would still need that infrastructure and storage. It's still going to have to be there. I don't think anything's off the table right now. The most logical thing would be to connect with Woonsocket. And Woonsocket could clearly provide us that service. The question is, what are the terms and conditions of that? And that would have to be worked out, but it's way premature to do that.
And is there going to be things factored in for what could potentially occur on 146?
Yes.
You know,
That-
obviously right now with the
Yes.
houses.
That's actually part of the tax increment financing study that Camoin Associates is doing. They're doing a feasibility right now, which is not the actual implementation plan of a tax increment financing district. It's basically look at its feasibility. The main result of that is going to be defined by what is potential tax generation from the development and upgrade of 146. Then that allows you to define what the additional tax increment revenue would be to the town. That's what can be captured to underwrite a tax increment financing bond, which is a revenue bond. It's not a GO bond, which could then be used to underwrite a portion of the infrastructure investments. In order to do that, you have to reach some kind of assessment as to what would be the logical uses along that corridor. And we're not doing a full market study, but we do have a general enough idea that we can pretty much start programming in what the uses would be along that corridor. The other thing too, as I mentioned before, and it's not part of this, but it's very much connected to it. And that is, we need to, as a town, get ahead of this, because there's some stuff popping up on the 146 corridor now, which may not really be congruent with what we want to see in a revitalized 146. So we're going to have to take a hard look at that, because I've talked to the town planner about this. We'll probably would look at a new zoning district for that 146 corridor, which would have new use restrictions and other kinds of development regulations to make sure that the development is the kind of development we want. It's not going to be, and no, I'm not attacking gas stations, but it's not going to just be a strip of gas stations. That's not what we're trying to do here. So we need to start getting our hands around that. We looked at that kind of analysis happening after the feasibility study and engineering. We may have to front load that, because I'm seeing a little bit too much activity right now to start the service. And I don't know if that's because the market's changing. I don't believe it. I think it may be because of the infrastructure investment that's going on in that area. People are starting to speculate.
May I ask a follow-up question on that?
You certainly can.
We'll have a question about this specific to the grant. There was a January 31st deadline for, oh my gosh, what was it? Hold on. Project coordination and administration. Did we meet that deadline for January 31st? Is that what the preliminary review was by PAR?
By PAR, for this project?
Yeah, there was a January 31st deadline. Hold on. 20 million
It's
pages
in this
later.
document, the grant agreement.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, the bottom line with PAR, when I came in,
Okay.
I I stopped things.
So that was a pre-existing
Right.
deadline? Okay.
I stopped it because the scope that PAR had and that the agreement with the state did not include sewer.
Okay,
And we worked with the state and got them to rethink that, and they added sewer in. They put a $40,000 item on the sewer side. And then we didn't, for example, do 30% design on a water tank. I don't think we need a 30% design on a water tank right now, so we're able to move the money around. So
okay.
that was originally the original grant before we
Okay.
changed.
But are we still on track? So we have a January 30th, 2026 essentially deadline.
Yes.
Are we still on track for
Yes,
that?
we are.
Okay. excellent.
Absolutely.
And then this might come off as a naive question.
And I'll give
But
you a naive answer.
You were just mentioning, you were essentially just mentioning that, people may see an opportunity on the 146 corridor.
Mhm.
If somebody puts their property up for sale, they could, a prospective buyer could, buy that property, and there aren't going to be any limitations on what they can do with it because there's no plan.
Well, we have limitations pursuant to the zoning
To the
ordinance.
zoning, yes, to the zoning. But is there any way for us to say we're going to stop?
No, you can't do
Okay.
that legally. I mean, that's basically a building moratorium.
Yeah,
And under state law, good luck on that one.
okay,
There were some communities a while ago that were doing, moratoriums on new housing construction, they were doing building impact, kinds of prohibitions. And almost every one of them are thrown out of court.
yeah. I mean, my fear is just that as people, as prospective buyers see opportunity on the
Yep.
146 corridor, that we're not going to have a long-term plan in place in order to inform prospective businesses on that corridor. So,
I share your fear.
yeah,
It bothers me a lot.
What
And I-
if Wheels were put in motion now to say, hey, listen, we're
That's right.
looking at, then it kind of.
And that's why Mark and I are starting to talk about that. We're going to kind of scope that out and put a price tag on it. How much would it cost us to bring something? I mean, theoretically, we could do that internally,
Mhm.
but I really am not comfortable with that. I'd rather bring in somebody else from the outside to really,
Okay.
to marshal that. But we need to do that now,
Right.
not later.
right, okay, thank you.
Next question.
Mm-hmm.
About a year and a half ago, we met with the governor and about water on 146. And the president of the town council at the time, who is now the mayor, was actually with us. And he was all in favor. Did something change? Did they lose their appetite to work with us? Because about a year and a half ago, they seemed very willing to work with us.
It's one thing to say you're willing, and it's another thing to make that happen. And that's not just the governor, that's also leadership at DOT.
No, I mean, something changed with Woonsocket. Will seemed to be.
Woonsocket,
They seem to have an appetite.
politics, there was pushback coming from the Woonsocket City Council all the time on this. I think Mayor Beauchamp is very open to this. And I think Director D'Agostino is open to it. The devil's in the details, but they are open to it. There is a couple people on the town council that are really opposed to this. They're opposed to it unless they're able to extract a lot of money from the town, which is one of the reasons why I think we need to keep our eyes open at the possibility of doing a separate water system just for us. There's a fairly healthy, aquifer there that we could draw from and quite frankly, it's a lot cheaper to use groundwater than it is surface water. Surface water has to go to water treatment plants, it has to be treated and all that kind of stuff. It's much more expensive. Doing a well-fed system up there, may be an alternative. I don't think it's the best alternative. The best alternative is working with Woonsocket, but we have to keep our eyes open to other alternatives.
Okay.
That's my gut feel.
Anyone have any other questions? So the first item is you need approval on the resolution, correct?
That's correct.
Anyone want to make a motion to approve the resolution?
I will make a motion to approve the resolution relating to Route 146 Planning and Development Initiative.
That's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara. Yes. Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes. And then you also need approval of the Rhode Island Site Readiness Agreement.
I will make a motion to approve the Rhode Island Site Readiness Agreement between the town of North Smithfield and Rhode Island Commerce Corporation.
That's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara. Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes. And finally, approval of the consulting proposal agreement between Town of North Smithfield and Park Corporation.
I will make a motion to approve the consulting proposal and agreement between the town of North Smithfield and Park Corporation.
That's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara. Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes.
If-
And-
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, and is that it for this? Because there's some other grant.
I was just going to make a motion to extend for an hour.
Okay.
In the event we need to. Anyone want a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes.
As it relates to grants, the other thing is that we're currently working on submitting our congressional appropriation request. We should have the one into Senator Reid by the end of this week. We did have a March 5th deadline, but all the congressional delegation moved it out to, I think it's the 15th or 17th of March. So the one to read will be sitting this week, and then we're going to start working on the second one, which will probably be going to either White House or AMO. We're not sure which yet. We're also in the process of putting together a deal on getting an application for building resilient infrastructure in communities, the BRIC program. We're going to be asking for funds to pay for the engineering of the one of the culverts that was identified as a major problem in the flooding in, I guess that's Cherrybrook. Is that the street? So that would actually pay for that. I've identified a Rhode Island EMA put together a bunch of consultants that will do grants writing. So they assigned a grants writer to us. We actually have the consultant that originally did the work on that culvert, EA. That was for like 4 or 5 years ago. I'm trying to figure out if there's a way that this can fall underneath that and amend it, but my finance director is getting a little antsy on me. He says, we should probably go back to market. So we're working with the state on that right now. And the other thing is that we have to have submitted to the state by the 10th our nominations for the State Transportation Improvement Program, our projects. I sent out emails to everybody on that. So we have to put that list together. Mark Carroll will be submitting that. But that's for state highway projects, so major projects that we think we need to get approved. That's it for grants at this point.
Can I ask a question about a grant, grants? RFP for, we were in the development of an RFP to send out for bid for more grant writers, right? For our long
Yes,
grant writers.
that's,
What's the status
what's
of
our
that?
deadline on that?
I can check.
Yeah, we are currently out to market for that right
Oh,
now.
yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, I think it's due next week.
Yeah, I actually just got some today.
Oh, nice.
So they're coming in.
Okay.
So we'll be putting together a team. We'll include somebody from the council on that, just to review the proposals.
Okay.
And make a decision.
Anyone else have any questions on that? You want to share the good news on your human resource position? No, go ahead.
We have a new HR manager. He's actually starting next Tuesday. His name's David Williams. Remember, this is a part-time position. He's got extensive experience, including at the municipal level, including towns as small as ours. He originally got interviewed by Tony and Jerry Ann, and then I came in and interviewed him afterwards, and I think we all agreed that he was the right candidate, and he accepted. So he will be working not out of finance, he'll be working out of the administrator's office. He's on the administrator's budget. And using the office space next to mine where we had the little conference room. So yeah, I'm pleased to get this stuff off my desk.
Thank you. It's only taken like 2 years.
Well, things move slow, government.
Thank you. And then Municipal Building Review Task Force. We're going to actually be doing a subcommittee in the next couple of weeks to review some of the proposals that came in for the OPM. So that will be coming up. And then also we have an invoice to approve, invoice 2415107, which is in the amount of $78,098.75 for what's been done to date. So I'd like to make a motion to approve payment of that invoice for Signal Works.
I think that was included in the payment of bills,
It
wasn't it?
was, yes.
But you need to approve though, right?
Yeah, as a separate item.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, it just needs to be approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I think my only, and again, I'm relatively new to this, so I would just like a better understanding, and I don't know if we could schedule this as an agenda item for our next meeting or if it's a special meeting, but I would just like a level set with Signal Works to understand work to date, what's the current status, they provided us with a project timeline. Are we still on track to deliver? So again, I don't know if it's an agenda item for the next time we meet or if it could be a special meeting, but I really would like a level set to ensure that I have a comprehensive understanding and we're being transparent in our delivery to timeline.
I'll
Yeah.
second that.
Yeah, no, they'll come in. It's just there really hasn't been a lot to go over just because they've been putting out the RFPs that we had already approved prior. So now that that's starting to come back, it'll start to go back in motion. So they'll definitely come in or do a Zoom call or something.
Yeah.
For a meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they still working on documents?
Yes. They just gave a very brief overview today, and they said obviously they want to come before the council and once everything is in and go over it. So we'll schedule that.
For OPM
Mhm.
proposals. But as far as moving construction documents forward, are they still working on them?
I believe so. He said they were just receiving stuff back from the cost estimator. I mean, we really didn't talk a lot about that today. It was mostly about going into review the proposals that came in. But like I said, I'll definitely have them come in. Now that stuff is starting to come back, they can do a presentation to everyone.
Do you mind if I reach out to Eric?
Mhm. Yeah.
You mind?
No,
Oh,
I don't
you
mind.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
How many bids did we receive to date?
Six.
Six, yeah.
We're not able to talk about these bids?
I don't think we should talk about them until we
Until they're-
discuss.
They were publicly opened,
They were publicly open.
so can you tell us who the bidders were at least? If they were publicly opened, I could go find the information myself. but-
Yeah, I can tell you who. I have to find it in my emails, but I can tell you who bid. But give me a second.
And then while Tony's looking for that information, you mentioned a subcommittee. Can you help me to understand what a subcommittee would entail?
It would just be like a smaller committee when they want to kind of like just go over smaller projects, like maybe the chief, the town administrator, the finance director, maybe the planner.
Okay.
Like that. Do you have it? So I can look. for
Okay,
it.
yeah, because I'm having issues connecting to the kind of IT issues on this.
It was RGB Architects, ECC Corporation, KCM Group, Downs Construction Company, Colliers Project Leaders, and Ionic Development Company.
And of all those that bidded, have we worked with any of them in the past? Do we know? Can we talk about it?
None
No?
of them I recognize, but I mean, I've only been here for,
Okay.
RGB's been involved in projects in the town in the past,
Mhm.
and,
yeah, RGB's bid on other stuff too.
yeah,
I don't know if we really want to discuss.
I don't think we go much further
No, I
than that.
just want an awareness. Okay.
So, Yeah, so I'll definitely have them call in or come in and do a presentation to everyone and see where they're at.
Okay, that would be helpful.
Did
Thank you,
we-
Kim.
Did we approve this?
No, we didn't.
There's a motion and a second on the table, yes.
All right.
She sidetracked us.
Further discussion?
No.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara. Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. House.
Yes. Open forum? Would you like to speak to open forum? Okay. Open forum pursuant to 42-46-6D, maximum 3 minutes per person. No one wants to speak? All right.
Just so everyone knows, I have the .gov switch over scheduled for Wednesday night. So just in case the site might be down for all taxpayers who might be online, the site might be down that night and will be .gov by the morning.
This is the website?
What's the town website?
Okay.
Just so everyone knows.
Down Wednesday?
Yep, they have them scheduling it for 4 p.m. If there's any issues, it might be down that night. We have all day Thursday to fix it, just in case there is. And then everyone's town emails are now already .gov.
So when the website goes, are there any, I'm big on change management as a project manager.
Mm.
So as we change the website to .gov, are there any implications, or do our constituents, our residents need to be made aware so they can engage with it differently? Is it linked?
It's-
Is it?
Nothing's going to change,
Okay.
and even if they did type in .org, it'll relink them.
Okay,
And
okay.
even if someone emailed us to .org, it goes right to .gov.
Okay,
It's just an
Okay,
alias.
good to know. Thank you.
Is it worth sending out an email to the,
I'm going to have Brian add it to the newsletter this upcoming Friday. We'll send an internal email to everyone, but it's going to be, just so everyone knows, it's now .gov.
I meant prior to Wednesday? Just because, I don't know how many people are watching this meeting right now, and I don't really know how important of an item this is for people that want to pay their taxes on Wednesday night or whatever they want to do Wednesday night, but, every now and then we get an email that says there's a water main break or something, is it worth it?
Well, even if they, like I say, even if they go to .org, it'll redirect them to
But it's
.gov.
gonna be down Wednesday night.
No, that's just in case something happens. If something goes wrong, it might be down, yeah. It's supposed to be just seamless.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I thought it was gonna be down.
yeah, just in case.
It's never seamless.
Fingers crossed.
Okay. All right, next one is executive session, discussion by council vote or other action regarding Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A2, sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation, or work sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation or potential litigation, a tax assessment. Someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to enter executive session.
It's a motion. Is there a second? Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara. Yes. Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. House.
Yes.
There we go.